the passenger side mirror. Da muss ich ein bisschen lachen vielleicht auch, wäre ganz nett. What the heck, motor, happened to Porsche prices during the Monterey Car Week? Have the Car Week sales changed the game for good? A Porsche 959 sold for $7 million, rightfully putting Zuffenhausen's original supercar into the Collector Car Hall of Fame. But perhaps more importantly, limited production Porsches from the last decade are now trading in a whole new price range at auction. $830,000 for a 911R built in 2016 and $918,000 for a GT2 RS built in 2018. Are these prices the new normal, or are they a sign of a wrench-board bubble ready to burst? In these Classic Driver Market Insights, we walked the extra mile to share with you which Porsche models surprised at auction and to try to understand what Monterey Car Week means for the Porsche market, especially in the US. If you watched our Market Insights about the Ferrari performance at the Monterey auctions, you'll already be familiar with what happened this year. A lot of crazy stuff. However, the Porsche results deserve to be read on their own terms, definitely. First, some geography, because it explains more about the market than any price does. Every August, the entire collector car world relocates to a small stretch of the Californian coast and spends in a single week roughly what it costs to build one very silly superyacht, except spread across a few hundred cars, which I'd argue is a considerably better use for the money, but that's just me. Here is the bit that matters for Porsche. The 959 Sport that made $7 million was delivered new to a business magnate in South Korea and then spent 15 years owned by a German Formula One driver. The 959 Comfort on sale made $2,865,000 was a German market car. The 964 Carrera RS 3.8 that made $2,040,000 was delivered to a racing outfit in the German city of Aachen and then sold to Japan and stayed in the Far East for more than 20 years. Every single one of them is a European car, and every single one of them traveled to Car Week to find out what it was actually worth nowadays. The US is the center of gravity nowadays for collectible Porsches as well. It isn't Stuttgart, it isn't London, and it is hard to say it isn't Switzerland either. The deepest pool of money for rare German cars is currently in the United States, which produces my favorite detail of the entire week. Read the small print on the RM Sothebys catalog pages for the 959 Sport, the Carrera RS 3.8 and the 993 Turbo S, and you'll find the same line on all three. Due to Californian emissions, the vehicle must be sold to a dealer or an out-of-state resident. Let's get this straight. The epicenter of the world's collector car market is a state that won't let you register the cars one just bought out there on auction. Quite strange, isn't it? Start at the top with a car that everyone will be talking about for some time. Chassis number 5013, and I'd like you to understand what this car actually is, because 959 doesn't cover it all. The 959 was Porsche's Group B rally weapon that grew up and became a road car as well. Four-wheel drive with an intelligent torque split, right height adjustable suspension, tire pressure sensors, composite bodywork, hollow spoke magnesium wheels, and a twin-turbo 2.85-liter flat six. In 1986, some of that list didn't reach ordinary cars until this century. 292 production 959s were built, and then there is the Sport. The Sport is the version that went the other way. Out went the self-levering suspension, replaced with coilovers. Out went the air conditioning, the stereo, and with a thoroughness I find generally very German, the passenger side mirror. In came a leather-wrapped roll cage and 4-point harness, 220 pounds lighter than a Comfort, 508 horsepower. 29 will build, just 29. The one on sale is one of 11 in Grand Prix White and one of only 2 known with air conditioning, which the catalog is careful to tell you it isn't recorded in the build sheet. So, as we said, no aircon. 3 owners from new. And then the detail that I think did all some of the work. In 2007, it was bought by Nick Heidfeld, Formula 1 driver, Le Mans class winner, Formula E competitor, and in 2017 it was sent to Porsche Classic in Stuttgart, and it spent nearly 115,000 euros putting the entire powertrain back to the exact factory specification, including restoring the Motronic engine management to as delivered condition on a car that had only covered 4,200 kilometers. That's not maintenance, that is curatorship, and the market paid for it. Now put the number in context, because this is where it gets remarkable. In March of this year, Broad Arrow sold a 959 Sport at Amelia for $5,505,000, and it was a world record for a Sport. 5 months later, this one made $7,045,000. Record broken. But the better comparison is this. The previous record for any 959 was $5,945,000, paid in 2018 for one of the 3 works Paris-Dakar rally cars in the legendary Rothmans livery, the actual thing that went rallying in Africa. A road car just beat the race car, or more precise, the rally car. Think about that for a second, because it inverts about 60 years of received wisdom in this hobby. Racing history is often the trump card, not this week though. And the same weekend gave us a control experiment, because a 959 Comfort in graphite metallic, one of only 34 painted in the color, a German market car, offered against an estimate of $2.65 to $2.95 million. It sold at 2.86. And Broad Arrow were calling this a world record for any unmodified 959 Comfort. You have to phrase it right. Down a floor into the air-cooled 911s, where the same rule keeps reappearing for different badges on it. This is the hardest road-going air-cooled 911 Porsche ever built. And if you only know one thing about it, wide body arches, a fixed rear wing, 3-piece speedline wheels, aluminium bonnet and doors, thinner glass, thinner carpet, no rear seats, no sound insulation, no undercoating. 600 pounds lighter than a standard Carrera 2. A 3.8-liter flat 6 with 300 horsepower and a strengthened 6-speed box. 55 built. This one, finished in speed yellow, delivered in December 1993 to the German racer Helmut Reise's outfit in Aachen, exported almost immediately to Japan and imported into America in 2015 under a show and display exemption. The result? This 5,000-mile on-the-meter wonder sold for $2,040,000. Amazing. And there is the useful footnote from the catalog. Because the car is now over 25 years old, the show and display restriction that the car was imported to the US under no longer apply. The new owner can simply go out and drive. Hopefully he does. The mantra of all our market insights. Now the sibling, the standard 964 Carrera RS, still a proper stripped-out homologation special, 40mm lower than the Carrera 2, lightened flywheel, limited stiff diff, stronger brakes, 260 horsepower, sold for $511,000. God gracious. What makes the RS 3.8 almost exactly 4 times the price of the RS? Now, this one, and I want you to look at it carefully, because it is for me one of the most important cars in the episode, and almost nobody will write about it. The 993 Turbo S is the last air-cooled 911 Turbo, 342 built worldwide, 182 of them went to North America, each one assembled by Porsche's exclusive department. Bigger turbos, remade Motronic, a secondary oil cooler to deal with the heat, and 450 horsepower for international market cars. This one is a zenith blue metallic over two-tone night blue and classic grey leather with many options. The list is long enough that it needs its own chapter. Carbon fiber, extended leather down to the dashboard vents. Numbers matching engine and gearbox confirmed by a Porsche Classic technical certificate dated in May this year. Homes were Florida, then Ohio, then New Jersey, and now back in Ohio again. And it has 32,000 miles on it, sold for $967,500. Hold on to that one for a while, because it comes back at the end and it has something useful to say about what happens to a great Porsche that has actually been used and driven. 2 more 993 turbos at Broad Arrow bought at $400,000. One, a 1996 car in paint-to-sample violet blue metallic, absolutely gorgeous, one of my favorite colors. The other one, a 1997 Turbo with the WLS1 package. That's Porsche Werksleistungssteigerung, the factory power upgrade, which is the sort of word that explains why the Germans built the engines and the rest of the world is just describing them. Standard-ish Turbo, 500,000. Turbo S, 967,500. Just under 2 times again. And to finish the air-cooled section with my favorite Porsche of the sale at the Monterey Week auctions. The Flachbau, the flat nose built by Porsche's Sonderwunsch Special Wishes department, which existed for the sole purpose of letting extremely creative customers in the 1980s have exactly what they wanted, which turned out to be a 911 with a face that reminds you of a 935 racing car and pop-up headlights. $505,000 for a factory 930 with a slant nose. Very important price. Because this is roughly the same as a standard 964 RS and roughly the same as a 993 Turbo. A car that was for more about 30 years the definite symbol of getting your money's worth vulgarity, and I mean it in the nicest way possible, is now $500,000 blue chip. The 1980s have won. They always do in so many fields of our lives eventually, in my opinion. Since 1998, Classic Driver is also the place where auction houses advertising their latest lots for their upcoming auctions. So, if you are looking for something classic like this wonderful Ferrari 250 GT Europa, or something more sporty and modern like this 599 SR Aperta, you should definitely check the Classic Driver market. Check the latest auction lots and you will for sure find something that you will like and you can go bidding for. Now, the cars from the teaser. And these are the ones that should really change how you think about your own garage, maybe. The 911R is Porsche's apology letter. When the 991 GT3 RS arrived as a PDK only, the purists lost their minds. So Porsche did the only right thing, taking a GT3 RS 4-liter flat 6, bolted a 6-speed manual behind it, deleted the enormous wing, used polycarbonate for the rear glass, added a single-mass flywheel, carbon buckets with Pepita tartan inserts, and in this car's case, a stereo delete. 110 pounds lighter than a GT3 RS, 991 built. The RM car is number 481. White with red stripes, sold through Park Place Porsche in Dallas. With just 168 miles showing on the odometer, it sold for $830,000. Now the second one. At Gooding Christie's, 48 hours later, also white, but this owner ordered it without the R graphics, which I have to say is the more confident choice. One of 296 US delivered cars, one owner from new, a prominent American collector of Porsche motorsport history. Single mass flywheel, option ticked, sport chrono, front axle lift, long range tank, estimate $600,000 to $700,000. This one had covered just under 5,800 miles and it sold for $830,000. The same number to the dollar. What could be a better proof of an auction result reflecting market value? Really, not much. Same model, same year. Both white, both with the single-mass flywheel, the Sport Chrono package, the front axle lift, 9 chassis numbers apart. And, most interesting, the 5,600-mile gap between them both, the market did simply ignore. Park that, because it's the most useful number of the week, and we're going to do it properly in a few minutes. And then the GT2 RS, 700 horsepower, twin-turbo 3.8 liters, PDK only, and for a while the fastest road-legal thing around the Nürburgring. The broad arrow car is a PTS, the 3 magic letter, paint to sample Gulf Blue, Weissach package, offered without reserve against $900,000 to $1.2 million. It made $918,000. The Gooding car, racing yellow over black leather and Alcantara with platinum grey stitching, Weissach package as well, forged magnesium center locks, delivered new through Fred Livery Porsche in Michigan in November 2018. This went into custody for a Michigan collector until 2024 and then to Florida. When it went for its time-based service in July 2024, the odometer read 68 miles. Actually a sad number, not in value, but in enjoyment. Again, hard to understand having this brutal driving machine sitting in your garage and not driving it. What a torture. It sold for $819,000. Now stack those against the rest of the summer and you get a range rather than a ladder. In July, on Bring a Trailer, a GT2 RS in paint to sample viola purple metallic with the Weissach package as well and 593 miles sold for $1 million. The first 991 GT2 RS ever to trade publicly at 7 figures. Original list price about $348,000, nearly tripled in under a decade. And earlier this year, another GT2 RS sold for $710,000. So with one model in one summer, the spread runs from $710,000 to $1 million. That's 40% for the same car. I'm not going to pretend I can tell you exactly what drove that spread, because I don't have matching specifications on all the 4 cars. But look at the two ends of it. The $1 million car is paint to sample, in a color somebody chose deliberately, with Weissach box ticked, of course. That is where the top of this market lives, in my opinion. Which brings us nearly to the question everyone actually wanted to answer. If your 911R is now worth $830,000, do you stop driving it? Before I answer that, we need to be disciplined out something, because this is where the most auction analysts goes wrong. Value in this market seems to follow a pattern. First, the model. That's the big thing. Only 55 Carrera RS 3.8 made. 342 993 Turbo S's and 991 911 RS. Those numbers are fixed forever. They set the price band before anyone opens a door. Second, the specification. The color, the Weissach box ticked, paint to sample, the options the original owner chose on purpose. Third, and this might surprise you, because I think it is only at the third place, the mileage. A very strong opinion. And I want to be very clear, because I don't want anyone taking the wrong lessons out of this episode. Mileage absolutely still plays. In America and Europe, a low mileage car is worth more than a high mileage one. That has not changed, and it isn't going to be in the future. But it only pays when you are comparing like with like. The same model and a comparable specification. So, is there anything out of Monterey that gives us a clean comparison like that? Yes, exactly one, and we have to use it carefully. Two 911Rs, same model year, both white, both with the single mass flywheel, the Sport Chrono package, the front axle lift, chassis numbers only 9 apart. As close to a controlled experiment as this business ever gives you. The Sothebys car, 168,000 miles, $830,000. Gooding cars, under 5,800 miles, $830,000. Now, here's what it does and does not prove. It does not prove mileage is free. What it proves is a narrower and I think far more useful. There's a band of the top of this market inside which mileage is absorbed and accepted. Both of those cars are in collector terms, efficiently unused. A 10-year-old 911R with 5,800 miles has been driven roughly 580 miles per year. Think about that. That's a car that goes out on nice Sundays. It's not a car that has lived. And the market looked at both of them and said, same thing, same money. So the first few thousand miles are free. That's the finding, in my opinion. But where does this band end? Monterey really doesn't tell us, but it plainly doesn't end at 5,800 miles. A 911R with 25 or 30,000 miles, one would be a different proposition. And it would sell for less, and anyone who tells you otherwise is definitely selling one. Let us know what you think about this proposition. Right, now to another question, the two-car dilemma. The idea, and I hear it constantly, buy two only if you're able to, obviously. Keep the delivery mileage cars sealed in the collection on a battery tender, spiritually dead. Buy a second higher mileage car, example of the same model, and use that for the thing the car was built for. Go out and drive. And on that evidence, the logic is sound. Not because mileage is worthless, but precisely because it isn't. If you drive a 911R properly for years, you will eventually take it out of the top tier for that model at auction. That's a real cost. And for the very best cars, the paint-to-sample ones, the perfectly specified ones, separating the assets from the experience is a defensible thing to do. Which produces a consequence worth thinking about. And it's the part nobody has priced yet. If enough collectors start doing this, then a completely new kind of buyer arrives for the higher mileage cars. Not the bargain hunter looking for a cheap way in, somebody who's already owns the perfect example and simply wants a second one they're allowed to enjoy. That buyer doesn't haggle because he isn't shopping for value, he's shopping for a weekend. And the cars he'll be looking at are precisely the ones the price guides have always treated as the cheaper end. Is there a precedent? There is, and I promise you we'd come back to it. That 993 Turbo S. 32,000 miles, 4 owners, 4 American states, $967,000, coming with a Porsche Classic certificate, confirming matching numbers and excellent condition throughout. That's a proper used car making very serious money because it is the right model in a beautiful specification with the paperwork to prove it. The miles didn't stop it. They simply weren't the deciding factor. So my honest advice, for what it's worth, if you own the very best example of one of these, the rare color, the perfect options, the livery mileage, then yes, treat it as the asset it now is and buy something else to drive. That's not cowardice, it's arithmetic. But if you own a good one rather than a perfect one, stop worrying about it so much. The evidence from this year's car weeks is that the market will absorb the first few thousand miles without blinking. You have headroom to use it. So, the question from top, new normal or Rennsport bubble? I think neither, and here's why. Tier 1, the 959 in both flavors. This has left the car market. $7 million for a road-going 959 Sport above the works Paris-Dakar car means the 959 is now being valued against the F40 or even the McLaren F1. Tier 2, the air-cooled Rennsport cars. The 964 RS 3.8 at $2 million, the 993 Turbo S at $967,000. These are the strongest and most defensible positions in the Porsche market because the supply is fixed at 55 cars and at 342 cars. And the demand is global. Nothing about this looks like a bubble to me. It looks like scarcity finally being priced correctly. Tier 3, the modern limited edition. The 911R, the GT2 RS, this is where the word bubble gets thrown around, and here are my thoughts. A bubble is when a price has no reference point. These have 4 reference points. 2 911Rs at the identical number in 2 different rooms, 2 GT2 RSs within $100,000 of each other, a $1 million benchmark set independently online a month earlier. But, and this matters, the 911R has been there before. One made over $1 million back in December 2023, which means $830,000 is not a record. It's an auction floor established twice by a market that had 3 years to think about it. And that, I suggest, is the real story of Porsches at the Monterey 2026 auctions. Not a spike, maybe more a settlement and agreement. And if you're now looking for a great Porsche to be added to your collection, go and check out the classic driver market. I'm sure we have the right Porsche for you, from one of our trusted dealers, from a private seller, or even offered by one of our auction house partners. If you missed watching our Ferrari auction special in Monterey, please check the link in the description. And please subscribe to the Classic Driver YouTube channel if not happened already, and follow us on Instagram so you don't miss out on the coolest stories about the thing we love the most, motorcars.